Hi class, it's Dr. Bardot. I, I wanted to show you some techniques here that are very powerful, very interesting, and give a good sense of some of the power of object-oriented programming, and give you a sense of how to use one more tool that we haven't really talked about yet, which is an array list, which is basically the kind of array we always wish we had, where we don't have to define how long it is right at the beginning. So let's just look at some robot I have here. And really, robots sort of forget a lot of what they've seen. They act very much in the moment as we have them right now. They don't think about the past. So I think it would be great if we had a robot who had a memory. So that would be the kind of thing that would be available in any method. So it'd probably be an instance variable. So that's what I'm making here as an instance variable. I'm going to call it memory, and it's going to be a memory, whatever that is. But I don't know what a memory is, and that's exactly what Eclipse is telling me here, is that we don't know what a memory is. And so it's my job to make one. So that's what I'm going to do, is create a class called memory. I probably should call it something like robot memory, but let's just go for memory right now. It's in the robot package, so that's helpful. So what is a memory? And how would I represent it in the computer? What kind of data structures could I use? And this is where an array list, maybe a memory is just a sort of a sequential list of observations, where the one in the earliest one is the most recent, and you go back. So that's a list of things. And so let's make. So I think the most important part of a memory is this list. So let's make it private. So this will be another instance variable, private, and it will be an array list. And in array list, as soon as you say that it's going to be an array list, you have to tell it what type of thing will be in the array list. And so this type of thing I'm thinking about is something I haven't really completely figured out yet. It's sort of an observation, a robot observation. And so let's just call it that. It's an observation. And so we have a list of observations. We should probably call that observations. And we have to say that that's going to be a new, very much like we were making an array, we need to say that's a new array list based on observations. And we have to tell it a sort of starting value for how much things will, how many observations it should sort of be prepared for, but it can go larger. It can go bigger than this. So this is not the hard cap that it would have been with an array. So it's slightly different syntax, slightly different way of writing it down. We don't use the square brackets. We use these angle brackets, the less than or greater than. We still use new. And we have to, but we have errors, which is no good. So let's take a look at what some of those errors are. One is that we have to create a class called observation. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, it's not going to inherit from anything, and an observation is going to be just a way of storing a lot of data. So let's see, what are some of the things that I want my robot to observe? I want it to keep track of the name of the robot that it saw. It might we might want to keep track of the heading, which is a double. We might want to keep track of the x coordinate. We might want to keep track of the y coordinate. we might want to keep track of the energy. So those are all things I want to keep track of. I want to be able to get and set that information. So I'm going to uh, generate a getter and setters for all of those things. I think I want to be able to get and set all of those things. And just boom, they're all there now. And I probably need a constructor method that I can't imagine making an observation where I don't want to record all of those things at once. Again, there's a generate constructor choice. Let me show you again where that is. So you go to source and generate constructor from fields using fields. So there are fields here. Fields is another name for instance variables or parameters. And I want all of those things in there. And so it might have gone to the bottom. But yes, so here's the constructor method. You're going to have to put in the name, a heading, the x and the y, and the energy. And it just records those things in the instance variables. Okay, so that's the class. That's the observation class. I saved that, and now let's go back to the memory. And it's still got an error. What's that error about? So we've solved the error that was about observation, but there's an error with ArrayList. And that is that ArrayList is not part of sort of the standard Java background like array is. You need to import it like so much stuff. So that's not a big problem. So we probably need at least a add observation method. So we're going to put in an observation, and every observation is going to have the name, the heading, the x, the y, and the energy right now. But I can edit all of this and change it all up. And basically, all I want to do is make an observation. So an observation named observation is equal to a new observation where I put in the name, the heading, the x, the y, and the energy. And what I want to do is I want to take that observation and I want to add that in. And there are two ways to add in. I could just because this array list holds observations, I could just add in just add and write in an observation, and that will put it on the end of the list. I'm sort of thinking that I'd like the most recent observations to be at the front of the list. So I'm going to say add. So I'm going to use a different form of the add method. I'm going to use this second form where it tells it what index I put it in and where to put and what element to put there. So I'm going to put for the index, I'm going to put it right at the front, which is 0, and then I'm going to put in this observation that I just made. And I should say that nothing's going to be returned from this. So that's the add observation, and I should put in some more methods that. So I can do. Let's have one that's going to return an observation, or maybe how about the string get name of last robot. So this method will spit out the name of the last robot I saw. So what I want to do is I go to my observations, and I need to, instead of using those brackets, when we had an array, we would use those square brackets to get something. Here we have to use a method. We have to use the get method, and I will get the most recent one. And so that's an observation. And off of there, I can get the name. That's what I want to return. I want to do that, so I can just return this. And that's my method that gets the name of the last robot I saw. And I could do all sorts of things. I could process this information in a lot of different and interesting ways. I'm going to leave that up to you if this is something that you're interested in implementing. It's not something that I'm going to require you to implement, but I think you can see how having a memory and thinking about what you saw your opponent's robots do before could be useful in making a strong robot. So I really encourage you, though, to think about array lists. Array lists are an excellent way of storing data, and we saw a couple methods that are really helpful. Let me just go through a couple more before I sign off here. So we have the add method, and that just puts things into the list, and you can put them in any place you want. You can clear it. You can ask it if it contains a specific thing, and you can ask it to get a thing out by using the index. And you can also find out its size. Size is so if you want to know how many observations there have been, you can ask it for size. That would tell me how many observations are in here. So not length in this case, size. That's a little annoying that they use a completely different word there. I hope this is helpful. I want you to work on making sure your robots don't hit the wall, that they are fairly good on the targeting, linear targeting, and tomorrow we'll talk about targeting for objects that are moving in circles, so circular targeting. And that version of targeting will actually subsume linear targeting in it, and it'll just be a better version of targeting. So I hope everything's going okay, and I'll see you next week and talk to you tomorrow.